Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. Let's start with the really disappointing news that yet again, another Xbox game coming to PlayStation has a pathetic amount of data on its disc. Now at the time of recording this video, these are the latest reports on the Outer Worlds 2. So the situation here is that Microsoft is releasing the Outer Worlds 2 for PlayStation 5, and once again the physical version of the game is disappointing and frustrating many PlayStation gamers. Various reports are coming in, as I said at the time of this video, in particular from the site Does It Play, revealing that the PlayStation 5 disc only contains a measly 1.32 gigabytes of data. That's it. To put that in perspective, that's basically the size of a small demo or an update file, but not a full-blown RPG. The rest of the game, roughly 71.6 gigabytes, has to be downloaded through an internet connection before you can even start playing. Now, once that massive download is done, sure, you can play it offline, but you still need an internet connection to start with. Without it, the game won't launch at all. And this isn't a one-off case. Over the past year, Microsoft published titles on PlayStation have built a bit of a reputation for disappointing physical releases. Remember the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle game? That had around 20 gigabytes of data on its disc, or Doom the Dark Ages, which had a miserable 85 megabytes on it. I got more data on a first-class stamp than these physical Xbox games coming to PlayStation. I mean, what the hell is Microsoft doing? Why even bother having a physical disc in the first place? People who buy physical games buy them because they want the full game on the disc. Now, you may have some people who just want the physical disc and a box on a shelf and don't really care much for the data, and that's fine, but that is a tiny minority. The vast majority of gamers who buy and collect physical games want to have the full game on the disc. Both Indiana Jones and Doom shipped on discs that were missing most of the actual game data, forcing players to go online just to make their purchases playable. That's left many PlayStation gamers wondering, what's the point of buying a physical copy anymore if the disc doesn't contain the game? For collectors and fans who love displaying their games on a shelf, it's frustrating if you want the game with the data on. You expect that shiny new disc to represent ownership, to be something that you can keep, lend, or revisit years down the line without worrying about things shutting down like service or, requiring future updates. You've got the full game on disc, so you can plug it in and just play and enjoy. But when the disc is basically just a glorified download key, it feels like you're kind of being ripped off here. And let's not ignore the irony here. Microsoft is the one publishing these games on a competing platform. You'd think that in trying to win over PlayStation fans, or at least give them a fair experience, they'd put the effort in to release a proper, fully playable disc version. Instead, their approach gives off the impression that PlayStation 5 players are getting the bare minimum. And given the current state of Microsoft's own user base in their Xbox gamers that literally refuse to buy games in favor of renting via Game Pass, the move of not having all the data on the disc will further alienate PlayStation gamers, and this will only ensure they do not buy games where the data is not present on the disc. It makes zero sense. Either release the game digitally and have no physical version, then there is no argument, right? Or if you're going to release a game physically, then put all the damn data on the disc. Even worse, the pricing hasn't exactly softened the blow. The premium edition, the one that offers 4 days of early access, still costs £90 in the UK or $100 in the US. For years, gamers have debated the changes towards digital-only releases, but what we're seeing now is a kind of strange middle ground. Discs that exist purely for show, not actual function. And that hits differently for fans who still care about game preservation, resale value, and simple offline accessibility. And at the end of the day, it's not just about storage space, it's about respecting the players that want to collect games physically. If you're releasing a physical disc, shouldn't that copy actually work straight out the box? What do you think? Should companies stop selling half-complete physical versions, or is this just the norm now that we're going to have to get used to? Let me know your comments down below. Now, moving on to Ghost of Yotei and some incredible news about maybe some potential DLC coming to the game. The game dropped earlier this month and it's already one of PlayStation's biggest exclusive titles since Spider-Man 2 back in 2023. Fans are loving the atmosphere, the visuals, the storytelling. It's incredible. But of course, everyone's asking the same thing. Will there be a DLC? In a recent interview, Jason Connell and Ian Ryan from Sucker Punch Productions said that the studio isn't rushing into any post-launch plans just yet. They're taking a step back and waiting to hear from fans just before deciding what's next. Connell explained that right now they're in the stage where they just want to see what resonates with people. What parts of the story or characters are people connecting with? What areas do fans wish they knew more about? It's a moment to listen and really understand what worked and what didn't. He compared it to what they did with Ghost of Tsushima. That game also had fans deeply invested in its story and its characters, and the feedback they got helped shape how they approached the game's DLC. So it sounds like Ghost of Yotei could follow a similar path, but only if it makes sense both creatively and for the studio. And let's be honest, that's a really good sign. Developers listening to their audience instead of just pumping out content for the sake of it, that is refreshing. From the critical and commercial success of Yotei, and of course the rave reviews of the game, it very much feels like there will be a DLC for Ghost of Yotei. The question from the developer's perspective is they probably have a few story arcs that they wish to expand on, but before pushing that green button and going ahead, they're waiting on players' feedback. They're waiting on engagement and playthrough on which bits really hit hard, which parts of the game the gamers want to play more of. And then based on that information and feedback, Sucker Punch will act on it and move ahead with the DLC on one of their story arcs. Hopefully, we do get more than one DLC though. For Ghost of Tsushima, Iki Island was brilliant, but I wanted more. So I really hope we get a few different DLC and expansions to Ghost of Yotei over the next couple of years or so. And speaking of updates, Ghost of Yotei has already received its first major patch, version 1.010. This one tackles a bunch of bugs and rare crashes. For example, they fixed an issue where the game could crash when ray tracing was enabled, and they also resolved a few frustrating mission blockers like the quest Fighting Fire with Fire and the Way of the Kusarigama. These might sound like small fixes, but for players running into those issues, it's a huge relief. It shows Sucker Punch is already paying attention and responding pretty quickly, something that's always great to see so early after launch. For the full list of the updates and fixes to Ghost of Yotei, head on over to the video description. The link to all of the Yotei updates is in there. Now moving on to Days Gone Remastered and the PlayStation Handheld, because there is a connection here. This one's a smaller update, but it connects to something much bigger. A brand new patch for Days Gone Remastered adds support for the new Power Saver mode on the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 Pro. This is the second PlayStation game that's now had this new Power Saver mode implemented. The first one was Demon's Souls Remastered, which I spoke about on yesterday's video. Now, if you're thinking, is that it? Is that the only update for Days Gone? Yeah, that's pretty much it. No new content, no Halloween event, just a new mode that helps reduce power usage. But here's where it gets really interesting. This feature lets games run at a lower resolution and frame rate, dropping from 60 to 30 frames per second to save energy. On the PlayStation 5 and the PS5 Pro, that might not sound very appealing because most people will want the highest performance and resolution possible. But for the rumored upcoming PlayStation Handheld, this feature could be a game changer. Imagine being able to play PlayStation 5 titles on a portable device with longer battery life because of this new mode. It's not officially confirmed yet, but this move makes a lot of sense. Sony could be laying the groundwork for a more efficient way to bring console quality gaming on the go. Now, there's been a lot of talk lately about Sony's rumored PlayStation 6 handheld, and if these new leaks are anything to go by, the PlayStation Handheld is going to be an absolute beast. Early performance reports suggest that this upcoming device could be around 3 times faster than Nintendo's Switch 2 when docked, and not just that, it might even outperform Microsoft's brand new Xbox Ally X handheld. Now, before we dive too deep, let's set some context here. For a long time, handheld gaming has been dominated by Nintendo. From the DS to the Switch, they've built their reputation on portability and fun, even if the hardware itself wasn't the most powerful. But lately, we've seen a change in the industry. Devices like the Steam Deck, the Asus ROG Ally, and now the Xbox Ally X have started changing the gaming landscape, offering full console or PC experiences on the go. And that's where Sony comes in. This no longer feels like a marketplace with low-end budget hardware. It feels like the marketplace has an opportunity and is ready for a premium gaming handheld device on the go. And according to a recent leak from Moore's Law is Dead, who's a well-known source for early hardware information, Sony's next-gen PS6 handheld could completely change the game. He claims Sony's upcoming device will use a custom APU. The codename is Canis, built on TSMC's new 3nm process. So what does that mean in simpler terms? Well, basically, it's faster, it's more efficient, and more capable of delivering console-level performance, but in a smaller, portable form. And what's more interesting is how it compares to the Switch 2. The Switch 2 gets significantly downclocked in handheld mode, meaning it runs slower to save power and reduce heat. Now, the PlayStation 6 handheld, on the other hand, reportedly will not throttle its performance nearly as much. That means even when you're playing in handheld handheld mode, you could be getting performance that's much closer to the docked experience. Some estimates even suggest it could be 3 times more powerful than the Switch 2 even before you plug it in. Now, of course, we have to remember all of this is based on early leaks, rumors, early reports, rough performance math. Nothing is confirmed officially just yet, but even if the final product comes close to these numbers, it's going to be massive from a handheld gaming perspective. Sony's last attempt at handheld gaming was the PlayStation Vita, and while it had a strong fan base, it never quite reached the mainstream success of the Nintendo Switch. But with technology advancing as fast as it is, and with Sony's renewed interest in portable gaming, especially with the success of the PlayStation Portal, the timing couldn't be better for a comeback. And speaking of timing, the leaks also suggest that the PlayStation 6 console will likely arrive around late 2027, with the handheld following roughly 1 year later, possibly 2028. That gives Sony plenty of time to refine the hardware, optimize its software, and make sure it's ready to compete directly with whatever Nintendo and Microsoft bring to the table in the future. And here's another interesting detail: the PlayStation 6 and its handheld are expected to use advanced upscaling technology like AMD's FSR4 or even FSR5. If Sony really nails the power and performance of the handheld, it could finally rival Nintendo in the portable gaming market again. And will Microsoft respond with a true Xbox handheld, not just a Windows-based device like the Ally X? And more importantly, do players even want a new handheld ecosystem? Or are we heading towards a future where cloud gaming makes hardware less important? Nobody knows what the future holds for sure, but what's clear is the competition is once again heating up in this handheld arena. And we've got Nintendo sticking to its hybrid formula, we've got Microsoft experimenting with PC-based handhelds, and now we've got Sony seemingly gearing up for a serious return to portable gaming. If the PlayStation 6 handheld really delivers on these early promises of power, performance, and a solid connection to the PS6 ecosystem, it could really become one of the most exciting gaming devices of the next generation. So guys, what do you think? Would you buy a powerful PlayStation 6 handheld if it truly offered console quality gaming on the go? Let me know down below, and let's move on and take a look at the PlayStation 5 version of Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl. GSC Game World has just released new gameplay footage of the PlayStation 5 version, and it looks promising. The trailer focuses heavily on combat and exploration, 2 key parts of the Stalker experience. If you've never played the series before, it's all about surviving the harsh, radioactive zone filled with dangerous creatures, mysterious anomalies, and factions all fighting for control. The PS5 version arrives on November the 20th and is expected to be the best performing edition yet. The Xbox and PC versions last year struggled with a lot of technical problems, but after months of patches, it seems like this new release is aiming to clean up those issues. It's nice to see the game finally reaching PlayStation players, especially after such a long and troubled development. Next, we have a quiet but important update for the PlayStation Store. Sony's added a new feature that shows the lowest price in the last 30 days for discounted games. It's something that fans have been asking for quite some time, and it's finally here. This new feature helps you see if that sale price you're looking at is actually a good deal, or if the game's been cheaper recently. It's not quite as detailed as some third-party price tracking sites, but it's a step in the right direction. Many players say the PlayStation Store has needed this kind of upgrade for years, and now it's slowly catching up to competitors like Steam. It's small things like this that make a big difference for regular players, because let's be real, who doesn't like to know that they're actually getting a good deal? And finally, let's briefly mention the Xbox hardware situation. Xbox President Sarah Bond recently confirmed that the company is 100% looking at making things in the future. That means new hardware, both traditional consoles and maybe something else entirely. Following the launch of the Asus Rogue Xbox Ally X handheld, which by the way is a fucking mouthful, it received decent reviews but still struggles to fully deliver the Xbox experience. Microsoft is clearly rethinking its hardware strategy. Bond said they're already working on next-gen Xbox hardware in partnership with AMD, and they're experimenting with designs, prototypes, and even new ways to play. She also hinted at improving the Xbox and Windows handheld space with better optimization, more compatibility, and features designed for on-the-go gaming. So here's something to think about. With PlayStation rumored to be working on its own handheld and Xbox exploring this marketplace too, could we be heading into a new handheld gaming war? It's an exciting time for gamers. Studios are hopefully listening more to their fans. Technology is evolving at rapid speeds, and both Sony and Microsoft seem to be going head to head in the handheld space. Okay guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and as always, I will catch you on the next video.